Test, test, test. I think this is going. It's Dave again. This is virtual co-working. I have been having a slow day. I had to wake up early this morning and go to the doctor's office. Hung around there for like an hour and a half. Then did errands. Got a hepatitis shot. And then since I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, I fell asleep until about about an hour ago, actually. And so I've been doing bills and other miscellaneous stuff as I've been waking up again. Hopefully this doesn't lead to more insomnia tonight, but what I wanted to do, based on today's list of things, is do some work on my blog. So I'm going to set an hour for that and see how long this takes. So, recap. The blog is, well, I have a blog already, but it's based on WordPress, but I want to redesign it so it's more like a research notebook. And I have some ideas about how I want that how I want the content chunks to be able to relate to each other. And WordPress isn't going to be a system that allows me to do that easily. So, by leveraging some knowledge I've gained over the past couple years, using JavaScript and Node.js, which is a server-side programming language environment, I think I should be able to do it. There's something called a static site generator, an idea called a static site generator, which takes a whole bunch of files on your computer, processes them into web pages, and then you end up with a big chunk of files you just upload to your website host. And the advantage of that is that you don't end up having to run a scripting language on the server like PHP or WordPress, which people are constantly trying to hack into WordPress because it's so popular. And static sites also require much less processing power, so you can get away with a much cheaper server. You don't have to pay as much money per month to use something like that. And I could probably go back to shared hosting and pay like almost nothing. Whereas it is right now, I had to pay $100 a month just to keep my server running. Otherwise, it just slows to a crawl. Let me make sure that there's sound here. It looks like there is sound. That's good. So, this is a complicated project. I haven't made something like this before, so just taking a stab at this to get to the point where I have some clarity on how do you make a blog system using Node.js. I mean, there's existing packages that do this, but how do I make the blog system that I want? So I think this session is going to be largely about figuring out what I want to do and defining what it is that I want to do. So with that, let me switch to the screen over here. Look, hello me. And let's look at my Quiver notebook, which is this. Let's put this over here. So, and here is my index for the October 2017 challenge. That's this month. This is getting these projects out of the way. This is the specific project I'm working on. So I'm going to officially say I started this at 6 p.m. So let me just write that down. So, working on this is the blog. Blog rebuild 1 hour. Let's see how that goes. And after that, maybe clean up the house a little bit. Or let's clean up the basement. If I got those two things even just a little bit out of the way, I would consider that a win for the day. So I've started using these post-it notes to keep lists of two kinds of tasks. These are the project revenue good for me tasks. These are chores. So I'm thinking about making some kind of little card thing that goes along with this. I mean, it snaps into the side here, and you can keep kind of your rolling to-do list from page to page. That might be pretty cool. And that would be a nice add-on for the ETP notebook. So that's what's going on right now. I am looking at this, and now I need to remember what the hell I'm doing. So in my blog building essay, what I'm calling it an essay because I'm writing out the process of what I think might happen. So let me just reread this because it's been a while. So my new website is going to be, to make it simple, pure text website. It'll be looking like the simplest of wireframes, and this is simply just so I can get it done quickly. And then after all the information is in place, then I'll do the design parts of it that are necessary. But a clean text website doesn't need a much more design just for it to be functional. It just needs a handful of spot graphics here and there, maybe some background coloration here and there just to delineate areas. That should be done. The website itself is comprised of an index collection of the past 12 years of my work, and a project-based organization scheme that functions like a public research notebook. Do I have an example of a public research notebook? Oh, well, I wrote down what I thought. It has nodes of information that are linked associative, chronologically, and conceptually. It has metadata describing those links. It has ability to store citations, resources, and related media. Now in WordPress, you would do this by creating a whole bunch of custom fields or a custom post type that had all these things. And then maybe using the WordPress's built-in post filtering and stuff to create access pages. But I hate using WordPress for writing this kind of material, especially custom post types. Now, I could make use of some of these fancier plugins that allow, like, you to create nicer forms for implementing that, but I hate the entire browsing process looking for content within WordPress. It really is designed for publishing and then forgetting. It's not designed for continually reworking a piece, like what I'm doing with these notebooks here. So that's what I want to get to. So if I convert this into a flat filed, text filed system, then theoretically I can just use like a regular multi-pane text editor to work with stuff, and then maybe over time develop a tool that kind of looks like this. This is, I'm guessing it says, this is built with Electron, which is something I'm looking at as well. Electron is a way of taking a Node.js server running on your computer and turning it into an app. So basically it's like you have a self-contained website running in an application on your computer. And that means you can leverage the entire JavaScript library galaxy of stuff, which is huge. There's lots of things like that allow you to do things like these text editing things, and you could just kind of plug them together. I'm just starting to get to learn how to do that. So my implementation strategy is to skip step 1, like the index collection of the past 12 years of my work. I have some code that will dump it out, but what I want to get is, let's look at this research stuff, because I don't know how to do this. So the approach is to design a research description meta language using JavaScript objects. This is useful because I'm working with JavaScript and don't know Lisp. I think it's possible to write a program that will help me refactor categories on the go. Basically, it looks like an English grammar. So I might define a concept, define concept blanks and excerpts. So it's kind of like maybe it's a tagged language. And then it looks like I made a list of things to figure out along the way. So, right, I wrote an exporter. Where do images go? I'm going to work on this new system here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. And let me make sure that, what am I saying? Not that. Public notes in the site. Let's make, this is a unclutterer. I'm going to make a new. Just keep this like on the screen so I can refer to it as I'm working. I just copy this out of the Quiver notebook, and this will float on top of my rest of my pages all the time. I'm going to close out this page here. I'll close that out. I'm going to assume that everything is working. Although I can pull up the chat window in a separate window. And I can just kind of keep this one here, and let me shrink this one down. I'll move this, oops, I'll move this off screen. Ugh. Let's move it on the other monitor. Okay. I'm going to type doing virtual co-working with some JavaScript stuff. All right. What am I doing? Let us recall. I'm tempted to now subscribe to Process Street because I could write down things and then how to start things up. But I guess the first step is just to open Sublime Text. And what is this? So this is, actually this should go here. Let's open up the right project. The project I'm working on is, I guess, this is the new website. Did I make something? It might have been this. This might be a good place to start. Alright, so now I need to actually run the development environment. So opening up a terminal window, and I'm going to go to this directory. What's it called again? Oh wait, this isn't web. Actually, I should be using the Thautomata process. That's actually the actual progress. This is the website. This is a different one. So Thautomata, this I think is where I was at. And I'm kind of rebuilding everything from here. So let's go back to Thautomata. Or is this like, there's a bunch of related projects here that all kind of use the same technology. So let's start cleaning with Thautomata so I don't have to think about the other stuff. The DSA local project, that's some different stuff. So in my build directory, I had this set up as what? Just a npm start? No, that's not right. Where's the rest of the... Where's the gulp file? How does this even run? Oh, this is an Electron app. Right. Oh, is it? No, so pure npm. Right, this is just outputting stuff. Alright, so let me make some notes in my Quiver notebook so I remember this. This is what, October 19? 2018. 2017. Let's look at the Thautomata project, which is designed to answer the research description meta language challenge. How does it work? What is with this? What just happened? Oh, escape drops it back out? That's so weird. I guess that makes some kind of sense. CD dev Thautomata build npm start. This is a pure Node.js command line tool. At the moment, all it does is parse chunks in main.js. I think that's what it's doing. Let's confirm that. Let's move the fucking thing over. God. Let me try to have my screens left and right, so I know if I'm looking for the terminal, I can just go left, or the Quiver app, it's all the way on the left. Source tree is all the way on the right when I'm running it. So we have main.js, and this is doing the creation stuff, def section. Oh. Alright, so let's try this. Let me start by making an example. And now we'll do that. Oh, this is using the new style. Wait, this doesn't work in browsers. The syntax in browsers is import, not require. So the definer module. Definer module manages chunks of data. The idea behind this concept: create a module that allows us to define chunks of data that can be tagged. Let's move this over here. Let's look at main.js and see what's... I guess I have 2 copies of it running. So this really doesn't have anything in it, but what is this doing? So we'll just add code to that. Let's make it, put a comment on the bottom here. How do I do this again? I have a different style somewhere else. 1701 Electron is probably where I did it. That didn't load. What's with this? Does it not exist anymore? Or is it just Sublime acting up? Looks like it doesn't exist. Oh, that's the workspace it's trying to load. That's not good. How can I clear this list? Project. Can I not clear items? Project. Open a project. This is the experimental one, right? Alright, so this is the one I wanted. Then, let's open the other project, which was Thotomata. So I should be able to switch between these now. Look, now it doesn't even show up. Oh, it's because I have multiple projects open. Or maybe it was opening all the time, I just didn't see it happen. Is this a new Sublime Text 3 thing? Close, close. Alright, now they're all there, good. So, back to the Electron Sublime project. I believe... Is this even the right project? Am I doing this in VS Code? No. I think I was trying to do it in VS Code. Snippets, main.js. Live, there's nothing in live yet. Doesn't look like I have anything really going on here. But this is the line I wanted though. This is 1701. Oh wait. This is my ridiculous commenting style. Alright, so what I want to do here is just start defining a section. Def title, I'm just going to just pretend that this exists. So I'm kind of writing pseudocode, and then I'll fill it in with the definer module just so it stores it and refactors it, and then try to write a function that dumps it out. That's one way to start. I don't know if this is the best way of doing it, but if I worried about what the best way of doing it was, I would never start this. And well, it's been probably 10 years since I've been thinking about doing this. So def title. Let's see, or I think it's called def set topic. And this should be the start section. Or maybe it should be a new section. No. I don't understand what I meant by that, so let's rewrite the whole thing. All this is doing is printing stuff anyway. So if I'm making a new piece of content, I want to create it in here. Set topic. Bananas. Well, let's think of a topic I'm actually working on. Gallery lighting. So I think the idea is def new chunk. And this will start a new chunk, and you don't have to do anything else to it. But we can let let's call that an ID. So then we have a new chunk. What this will do is create a new chunk, closing the old one. The warning if another is open. And so what this will allow me to do is new chunk. So what is a new chunk? Let's go to an expanded commenting style here. Create a new chunk. What is a chunk? A chunk is a piece of knowledge. What makes knowledge useful to me is knowing the topic, something unique and keywordable, the realm of knowledge, e.g. the field, some context, some contextual, some associative, let's see, I would say, oh, it's a canonical, keywordable, something a library, some sort of library version. The realm of knowledge. Let's call this the informal realm of knowledge. Person. Category of knowledge. Library filing. Like the Dewey Decimal System. What else do I need to know about knowledge? I want to say it's when you have a piece of knowledge, you kind of want to know how it relates to things. That's what the first two are. But you also want to know how to apply it. Let's see, the nominal use of this chunk of knowledge. And by this I'm thinking, is it a concept, tutorial, etc. So I need a list of this. So my schema for use of knowledge concept, or let's say a primitive concept base. So I need a list of primitive concepts. I want to say like chunk specific. There must be a better name than chunk. Primitive knowledge, concept base. So when you have a piece of knowledge, there's usually it's like concepts that are associated with it that are kind of unique to the field. So, for example, if you have a PC, if our primitive concept base is, well, actually, I don't know. Let's add a 1A. Parent category is known. 1B. Descendant or derivative. This is like the hierarchy of knowledge. 1C. Similar. Well, this will be the multidisciplinary or other disciplinary equivalents. Other disciplines. Let's make this one 4 and this one 3. So the informal realm of knowledge is more like informal tagging. And then this is maybe the topic. The reader-friendly topical headline that describes this chunk. This is like the hook. This is just to make the indexes readable and not boring. Nominal use, so not the nominal, but nominal uses of this chunk of knowledge. Examples where you might use it. And then we'll have I guess the form factor of knowledge. So this is what I was doing for use of knowledge. We'll call this the form of knowledge. It's let's see, principle, or it's like key concept. This is a jargon name. It's field-specific jargon. So what you want to do with the primitive concepts is the idea of things like leverage. The key concept in, let's say it was politics you're writing about, hegemony is about leverage. Maybe something like another concept might be if you're doing something like additive sound synthesis, then the primitive concept would be signals and systems and superposition or something like that. But there's even a more basic way of describing that. Let's see. The other schema of knowledge. Well, you have a key concept, you have a procedure, you have a definition, you have a formula, have a metric, you have a best practice, you have a what else do you have? Forms of knowledge. You have a tutorial, you have a concept map, or concept/system map. You have a case study. You have a application guide. So I'll make up a list of these kind of things. So you want to know what it is. There's several kinds of definitions too. Multiple from different perspectives. Because you want the knowledge to be accessible, so you want to have multiple ways of describing it. Procedure. Relevance. Relevant applications. Actually, I guess that would be the case study. Say a named procedure, common procedure or practice, formula mathematical foundations, if that exists, metrics for superlative performance and failure, best practices in the field, tutorials, so I guess this is, wait, what was I going to put there? Tutorials, comparisons to other similar or related things. So the idea, I'm trying to make a data type in which, like, when I'm adding a check of knowledge, I can tag it with the kind of knowledge it is. These are analogies and comparisons. So another way of getting at the partitive concept, key concept. E.g. leverage. Sure, I could come up with some more, but that would be a start. Oh, that was one that was on the tip of my tongue. So, in addition to all this stuff, so we have primitive key concepts, definitions, multiple procedures or practices, formulas, metrics, best practices, concepts, case studies, application guides, tutorials, references, that was it, reference tables, suppliers, buyers, if those are relevant, canonical books, canonical book, canonical site, canonical expert in the field, canonical, these are examples, I guess, of relevant materials. So now I'm going to see a supplier, a consumer, of this knowledge topic, of this knowledge, or actually, I want to say this of knowledge or supporting knowledge. Let's just take that out. A reference table. an analogy linking to other subject. Maybe subject is the term I was thinking of. Create a new subject. Instead of chunk, let's call this. I want to call it almost want to just call it like a meta file or a knowledge file, or let's call it a K file, a tome. Let's call it a chunk. I'm going to call it a ka-chunk because it's funny. A ka-chunk is a piece of knowledge. I'll just call it K-chunk. Pronounced ka-chunk. I'm sure people have made these before, but a reference table analogy linking to another ka-chunk. Yeah, same level of abstraction. So these are kind of maybe levels of abstraction, no? Primitive concept, key concept, definition, common procedure or practice, a formula, or a mathematical foundation. Let's call it a mathematical expression. A metric for assessing quality. A best practice. A concept. Or let's call this a system map. Or a visual diagram. Case study. There's also a guided tour. A case study. An application guide. A best practice. A convention. Tutorial. Actually listening to the K-chunk. It's an analogous other K-chunk. Reference. Organizations, groups, so this is the kind of stuff that I look for in when I'm putting together chunks of knowledge. So we're creating a new ka-chunk, and so these are the schemas, the canonical category. Canonical. I mean, this could be, I think it would be an optional thing. Is something like the Library of Congress system. What's that called? It's called a, what's the name for that? Library of Congress filing system? classification. That's what it was. What is this? A system of library classification. Let's put. I wonder there's a different one. The countries that surveyed, most public libraries and small academic libraries use the older Dewey Decimal Classification system. Maybe I should standardize on that. Yeah. Let's see. So proprietor, it's proprietary. We don't want to use that. Relative location, relative index. Allow new books to add to an appropriate location. It's more for finding things. Is there another system for classification? I mean, I should just look up epistemology. Oh, what's this? The Book Industry Standards and Communication System. BISAC. Simplify logistics for publishers, manufacturers, wholesale librarians. Okay, this is what I want, maybe. I wonder if it's expensive to get into. Actually, this does sound interesting. Barcodes. I like it. Let's take a look. BizG, Book Industry Study Group. Purchase the codes. I bet you had to license this. If you're a non-member company, $295 to license this. How much does membership cost? What does this do? What's thema? Subject headings list. Let's see if there's a BISG JavaScript library. Maybe someone's already done this work. Nope. Oh, it's looking for big instead of BISG. BISG subjects. Let's look into this. What are BISAC codes and how do I get them? Subject headings, straightforward. Main carry, then subcategory. I wonder if this is really an epistemological. Let's see. Epistemology, classification. Experiential. This is where you not to talk to a library scientist. Maybe I'll go to my local library and ask them. Let me just add this here. Talk to a reference librarian. Just writing down some chores I'm remembering. Pay therapist. So, but you know, I think I can punt on this for now. Headings. What was it? Book publishing system, code system. We can skip this. Yeah, knowing is starred. Parent categories, so we'll skip this. Formal realm of knowledge. I'll think I'm going to do 2A and 2B. This is like the informal subject. So these are formal categories. So this part here, the formal category of related disciplines. This will be, the one section will be based on the formal stuff. The informal stuff is stuff I can work with right now. So I can actually start with these two as the essentials. And then like you fill in the rest of the stuff. So then reader friend, this is more of the content side. This is the applications. The form of knowledge. Let's move this in. Okay, so where are we now? So if I'm to write a piece of knowledge, I would have to say this about this. I'm going to skip this part up here. Update this to A to B. This is all the metadata. And then of course, there's the actual content. Content blob. And we have blob types. But since we want this remixable, and how do we give it its unique ID? Let's define some blob types. So let's see, there would be like, these ought to be remixable. This is going to be a markdown document, or the extended markdown. Hyperlink, scribed, hyperlink. What else? Image, media. PDF, JPEG, etc. Let's add canonical source to this. First person testimony. Secondary testimony. Media reference. Let's see. Digital media. Hyperlink. I think that's so as far as database stuff goes, this is how I'm looking. So now, given all this, now we're worrying about the content. Content blob is where I'm defining, I'm writing my content. It's in Markdown with some extensions for inserting. I think it's going to be GitHub flavor. GitHub flavor is Markdown. GitHub with my own image or media extensions. And conventions. So for example, so for things like links, it would make sense. You can define things like link URL standard Markdown. We can extend that to put a little bit more juice in this. So primitive concept to tag it lines and yeah, this actually might work well. Blah, blah, blah. What's the next syntax? Maybe we use a different syntax. Maybe we'll use like these brackets, although that's similar to the template language stuff. Maybe it does just make sense to do it like this. So I put on a send, this will become a marker, a break. That's local to this chunk. Or if it's of this form. This is defining link of a certain epistemological type. Can be referenced on this page. I think there's also another the path to this chunk, because we're doing, this is all file-based stuff, right? C, D, E. This is required. Because that becomes the unique identifier in my flat file. Can define, this is a canonical path. Non-canonical. To improve the linking. So by this, so let's say like I have, there's like a one place where this knowledge exists, but there might be other ways to get to it. So it may not make sense, like if you're doing something about paint and you have paint stored in the art category, there might be, this chunk still might be relevant into like automotive stuff maybe. So you might want to define an alias to it in which it goes to this and it brings it here, but it's capable of remembering that this is the alias. That's maybe some trick in coding, but so right here, the content blob. This is what? This is the knowledge chunks definition. So with this knowledge chunk, with my own media extensions, so basically I had to modify Markdown a bit. So there's I do my own pre-processing. Standard Markdown reference. And so the meta file format, which looks something like path. Well, the metadata is all at the top. Metadata as described in 1 through 5. This is content blob. And 6 above. And I think we're going to describe it. So there's going to be standard headers, I guess. So something like what am I trying to say here? And how does this relate to what I was doing originally? So I end up defining this file format. Working file format? No, that's not working. This is the kind of knowledge I want to. This is the metadata I want, in addition to the knowledge. I'm starting to get sleepy. We're at 45 seconds left, so let me think of how to do something productive with this. I have some insight about what this is like, but how does this translate into code? I think it's maybe related to the way that I define this. I mean, I guess I can turn this all into a description. Turn this into a language, So essentially this becomes the API for parsing with these markdown documents and shoving them into some kind of something. So we have a chunk, and then we want to def so this is basically going to create a file. Create a new virtual file. Or a new, let's say, knowledge object. And so then we want to do things like add path. Let's call it a K path. Alternative path to this. So we might add a couple of K paths. Then def add canonical category. Heading, subheading, def add parent category. That may not make sense with the canonical category, because if you already have the, like this is confirmed, this is compared against the classification system. We'll just leave it at that. Let's keep moving. Informal subject. Add subject. Pizza. Neapolitan. Crispy. And subject in from general to more specific. Def add subject there should be a way of defining multiple aliases. So you could be like let subject is equal to def Neapolitan crispy subject synonym crunchy. Something like this. Try to add a finding alternatives, alternative descriptions for this subject. That's the intent of that anyway. So once we have the headings, the subheadings, formal realm of knowledge, def, add realm, cooking. Realm could also be project. Let's call it a scope. Field, specific project. And let's say, we'll do this, diff add goal. Our 2017 goal, or let's say better at cooking. Let's see, def add product. Good pizza. Or add produces. That's kind of the why you're doing things. Def add description. I want to make delicious pizza because with such and such qualities, because it's yummy and I don't want to eat shit. Blah blah. Def add benefit. Approved QOL. Deliciousness to share. So by making these into the sort of database that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create an informal taxonomy here that I can then list out and search and then combine them. I'm also providing sort of like specific keywords here. Kicking bread. So what else do I need to do? Form of knowledge. That was 3. That was a topical headline. Now we're into the form of knowledge. I think this is the main article, are defined inside the main content chunk. Six. Just add chunk. Mark down stuff. I guess I'm looking at something like this. And now, the next question is, how do I change this? Change one version of this file and track it as another. Can I use Git? If we're file-based, can use Git to look at the source files. But how do we merge and group existing categories so they're rewritten? One, maybe that happens. The created database produces a list of benefits, outputs that seems, or let's say, I would say the first use case would be notice need to refactor some keywords. We want to retain the history of this change. So let's say I want, instead of using good pizza as my produces, I wanted to change that to good something else. How do I actually make that change and track it? I guess a little later. Well, we should keep it in the file then. Def. Maybe this produces. Def right. This produces the canonical markdown file, markdown plus YAML file that's used to convert into the website. I guess you could make a derivative. To make a derivative of the earlier file, we can kind of subclass it. That's it. So on my def get chunk this is base revision number 2017 1009. we can write some alternatives ones. Def right. It produces the alternative k paths as well. So here, get k chunk path. And so then we want to do def right. So for getting a k path, so we'll do manual versioning. Version is manual. Okay, this is option 1. Create from scratch. And option 2. Read markdown source file. Def this is an import. Def read YAML path doc. So 3, to make a derivative, and get k chunk path name. So here we can do, oops, what's going on? So then we can modify def let's see, instead of add description, we could do an add description. New description. And then this would write out, this writes out another file version. Our sources. Def right can never so this way you can make a bunch of chains, I think. Let's call this change description. So then we can like log the changes of things. Change goal. But you could also add a goal. Fish fries. And so where does this go? Where do these files go? Let's describe that. And then I think that'll be a pretty good bit of conceptual work for the day. So there's the idea of a source articles directory. Where we might write our initial markdown document. There's probably a source media. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the directories too. When def write is encountered, the source article, our YAML, not YAML, was that right? Like our markdown plus front matter document. Written is written back out or is processed. So I want to chain these things together. Is incremented its file name. Let's see. This latest file name is used by the website processor to create the newest file with the ability to read a file and then write it. Source. New source. We don't lose our old drafts. Until we're ready. We can also then track the changes, keywords, etc., maintaining the history. We can also commit everything in the source articles. Directory to GitHub. but I guess we could also commit everything to that and just track the changes that way, but I don't think that would, but we would lose seeing the shape of how our keywords changed. Unless they files also, but that would be cumbersome. We want to edit one master file at a time. Possibly we could not use JavaScript as above and just add the changes to the matter file. So okay, this is starting to get someplace. Create the newest file, HTML. A different directory. Alright, so it's kind of resolved some questions. I think that's enough for today. So, what time is it now? It's like 7:30. Did I actually spend an hour and a half on this? Oh, that's nice. So, let me close this. Well, let me update my cover notebook here. For Global Continuity 2017. I'll change this. Oct. Was it 9? Well, yesterday, what did I do? Yesterday was Wednesday? Wednesday. Start looking at ETP or reinstate ETP system. No, I did it on Monday. Or what did I do yesterday? So I can just look. Yesterday I started to write up start to look at website systems I have already for didn't get far. October 19th, Thursday, looked at looked at THU project, defined knowledge and some transformations to run on them. So I think that's pretty important. I need to look in Sublime Text. Sublime THU. I last left off. Next step is, I don't know. What is the next step? Oh, I have to, I guess I could write this, but I guess there's some questions to ask. I guess the next thing to do would just be to write some code that implements what I suggested. So we're actually into making implementation. So that would be very exciting. All right, so that's today's virtual co-working. Looks like I had no idea what I was going to do today when I started, but it's nice to feel that I'm starting to make some conceptual progress on this. So now I'm going to eat my beans, which I've been cooking over there. Let's take a look at them quick. Do 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 do. That doesn't like focusing on that. So these are I cooked these for 2 hours, and now they're here. I guess they're cooked. Let's see if they taste like anything. They taste great. I soaked these in salty water and then drained that water. Put fresh water in, but the salt remained in the beans because the beans absorbed the salty water as they expanded. So now the insides of the beans are seasoned. I added a little bit of onion powder and garlic powder in this. I can slightly taste it, but it's the good base for just eating or something, or mashing them up and frying them or something like that. So that means it's dinner time. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching Virtual Coworking. Hope your work's going well. I feel like I've finally gotten some traction on this project, so hopefully I can continue that tomorrow. But also I need to overlook this server transition. I'm seeing messages coming in on that from other team members. So with that, have a good night, and we'll see you soon. Well, I'm waiting for this to time out. Oops, no, I guess that's done. I guess I need to pull up another window, make sure that this live stream is unstreamed. I can't drag that to that window, really? Really? Oh, there's my other window. So, screw you, window. Live dashboard. I think we're probably on this, so I can probably stop streaming now. Oh, maybe not. It's still going. Huh, it's delayed quite a bit. This is prime time, so I'll probably let this stream a bit longer. Do we lose audio? This is quite slow.